Twitter artists and drama. It really seems you can't have one without the other. A few months ago, I made the first part of this series, and as I said there are just way too many insane stories from our Twitter lore to fit into one video.
Twitter
So that's what we're
lore.
here for today. We've got a bunch of new cases to go over, from the comically absurd to the genuinely disturbing.
What
This
the hell,
is
artist
Twitter's most infamous
groomer?
artists, Volume 2.
Twitter artist and damn, that's too many air quotes
Asami
to
Art
count.
started out in 2021 under several different aliases, publishing your typical beginner anime-styled cutesy girl drawings. But it wasn't until 2025 she gained significant success with a far more professional style on Twitter under the Asami Arts handle. Here she'd lean into more sexualized artwork, which had been a growing trend in her art as time went on. And this new Asami Arts account was very successful, reaching just a hair below 100,000 followers in a little over a year. Before what happened. There are really two
What
main
happened?
reasons this account became as big as it did in my opinion. First is the unique way she framed this borderline NSFW art. Every piece is of
Ooh,
herself,
boy.
or the Asami character she portrayed, sort of adding this weird parasocial element to her otherwise mundane Gunnar bait. You can very much see how effective this was just by looking at some of the unique comments her work would receive, and how she would encourage it. I didn't know Asami was such a naughty girl. No, I'm a good girl. You're a best girl. I don't like this one. I don't like other people touching her. Sorry. I actually meant to draw you, for you to imagine. No one touches her, jealous boy. Okay, then it's fine. Oh my god, dude. It's a little odd, but was undeniably an
It's a little odd. I'd say it's a bit fucked.
extremely effective business model for Asami, as extremely quickly after setting up her page, she'd not only sell full-on
Oh, damn.
NSFW art of her character behind a hefty paywall, but for the especially attached fans, she'd offer commissions, charging $150 as a base point.
150 add character, 200 pet small characters for $5.15 US to $80 US. Like, what the hell? I swear, like, Gunnar art really does pay. It really does feel like it's paying.
And the second, far more effective reason for her rapid growth is the inhuman rate she'd upload new pieces, with often less than 24 hours between posts. To illustrate this, I tracked all her archive drawings on Danborough and found in the month of October 2025, she posted 31 fully lined, colored, and shaded pieces publicly, with presumably many more
she's
paywalled
got
image
passion,
sets
I
and
guess?
commissions on top of that. I would praise her dedication here, but that almost seems a little too efficient. And when you take a closer look at those drawings, they seem, well, a little off. I don't think gun muzzles go there, Asami.
Wait, what do you mean? Is it AI
Wait,
art?
How did you know to end that line there? Okay, yeah, I think you all know where this is going. Asami AI generates all her artwork. Although it's not quite that simple. Asami is the first major case of an artist getting exposed for tracing AI art. Considering she also has
Tracing?
genuine experience being a real artist and used this, at the time, new method, it was very hard for the average person to spot. Only those with experience drawing themselves would be suspicious of her, and even then, it's difficult to come out when you suspect an artist of doing this kind of stuff. We've seen multiple times where artists get falsely accused of using AI, having a completely unjustified hate mob thrust upon them simply for expressing themselves, because one person thought it looked AI. And the inverse, where people who do try to expose actual AI artists get run off the internet themselves for what's perceived to be witch-hunting innocent artists, only for it to then be revealed they were right the whole time. So yeah, it's a big mess in the
AI stuff really is getting out of hand. It's crazy. So you can have an artist that's literally just doing his own job and enjoying his like creation and posting it online, and then you have people going like AI art. People really need to start focusing on which truly is AI and which is handmade. This is ridiculous.
art community right now. And yet another aspect of life, AI is completely ruining
Smushed
for like
against
zero
the
gain. But thankfully,
glass.
one Teru Pancake was willing to take the plunge and definitively expose Asami. Teru had been watching Asami for almost 2 months, first becoming suspicious of her for the reasons we already mentioned, and she decided to report Asami's profile on VGen, an exclusive art
VGen.
commission platform that proudly advertises itself as not allowing AI. However, with VGen not doing anything to remove her, Teru realized the only way forward was to go public with the substantial evidence she'd accrued, posting this tweet on December 1st. Asami Arts is tracing AI. This is an account with nearly 100,000 followers who has been taking dozens of commissions through VGen. Here is the evidence. And linked below was the final boss of all Google Docies. Running 45
Final
pages,
boss.
the doc leaves no stone unturned, identifying the
Damn,
exact artist
45
Asami
pages.
when generating her art, tracking
I
down
mean,
her
at least they
long-deleted old
collected
pieces,
the info.
and even going as far as to reaching out to past commissioners of Asami for comment. Then the document itself comes equipped with freaking auto-playing GIFs of time-lapses like baked into the doc itself, color-coded text, and even these cute little arrows pointing to what they're talking about.
I mean,
It's a genuine work of art in of itself.
good job.
Okay, so I'm obviously not going to just read through this whole thing word for word, but we'll go over the core points and funniest parts. First, Teru opens by stating her motivation for making the doc is to inform commissioners who Asami is blatantly scamming by pretending to be a real artist. Teru states there are consistent patterns AI tracers tend to fall into, which makes them easy to spot, listing 6 common AI red flags, to which Asami falls into every one. And it will also conveniently work as a skeleton for us to quickly go over the main points here. The first red flag is their account is very new with none of her previous accounts linked to it. Asami went to great lengths deleting all her previous work before starting the Asami Arts account, making it so you can't see any suspicious sudden jumps in skill or overnight art style changes without looking very, very hard. And uncovering
Still
those
don't
older
understand
works
why you'd
will be a
erase your
major
older
point when it
work,
comes
but
to pinning down Asami, as we'll see soon. Next is, their art is constantly deleted when someone points out AI elements. The doc shows multiple instances of Asami's posts being deleted after comments were posted accusing her of using AI, with Asami often engaging in long arguments with them over it instead of just sending proof like a time-lapse or a screen cap of their separate layers.
Yeah,
Ultimately,
like,
simply blocking them
it's easy.
and or deleting the art right after. It also has a long section showing various errors present in her now deleted artworks, consistent with those from AI-generated slop. The most infamous is of course the freaking gun muzzle on the back of the gun. Then there's more subtle but just as egregious errors like hair appearing out of nowhere, clothes with disappearing straps, and fan art of characters where key design elements are just wrong. There are multiple sudden changes in art style in a short amount of time. This is the most damning section to me. Teru not only proves Asami is tracing AI images, but even goes as far as to identify which artists Asami is blatantly plagiarizing by using models trained off of their art, which she switches between throughout her career. Teru first identifies Asami using models trained off of the artist Ogi Pote starting in April of 2023. Looking at them side by side, yeah, it's pretty blatant. It's especially immoral
Really does look
considering she
identical.
was charging money for these as commissions, and Ogi Pote themselves has even spoken out over being upset at how these models trained specifically off of their art were circulating. The very
It's honestly nuts how you can have so many AI art stuff. Literally just practicing out of other people's work. It's just nuts to me. How do you even do that in the first place? I mean, not how do you do it. I mean, obviously they have the free artwork and everything, and they just kind of copy and paste things. But it's like, God, man, really makes you wonder why exactly continue as an artist when there's literally no point to it. Trying to find a 9 to 5er seems to be more rewarding.
same month, Asami started doing this. After that, Asami switched to plagiarizing Ikara Eku in May of 2024 using the same method of generating images off of public ImageChan models trained off of their work. Before, on June of 2024, she would make a final switch to generating images based off of the artist Ixi, which you'll recognize is the style she rode to great success on the Asami Arts account. Finally, the doc provides this comparison, showing just how drastically Asami's art style changed near instantaneously as she switched between stealing from these different artists.
Yeah, I guess
Then
that makes sense.
a sudden jump in art skill. The best thing here is to just show Asami's art chronologically. We can see her normal beginner art in 2021, then much improved and actually pretty soulful and ambitious drawings from 2022, before she starts to use AI in 2023, with an
Eesh.
obviously way too big to be natural skill jump. This part is actually kind of sad to me, because it's clear she can draw, and from those early ones you can see she was even improving quite dramatically, and was
And then
really
she
trying
jumped to
very hard.
AI for some
I don't know,
reason.
I obviously think Asami pretending to be a real artist and blatantly scamming people through overpriced commissions is really bad, but at the same time, when I see artists turn to using AI, I wonder, is it like because they felt they weren't good enough and had to use this crutch because of their own insecurities?
I'd say more so for the money. Solely just why exactly go out of your way to struggle to draw when you can just have something generated for you for free, if not for the sake of it. Like, imagine people sometimes spending hours to maybe even weeks to draw something or animate something, and then just AI takes it, replicates it, and does it in an instant. It just feels so demoralizing. It's like both to the users and the creators. It's like, how do you win against that? How do you even do anything against that? It's just like, sheesh.
Over their work. It's just sad because you can tell she has potential to be a really good artist, and probably would be by now if she had spent the past 3 years actually making art instead of just tracing AI slop. Anyway, the last point is refusing to provide proof. As we went over earlier, Asami acts extremely confrontational, or simply blocks people who raise suspicion over her AI usage. The few times she did attempt to
So turning
prove she
against
was
the
legit,
community that quite literally gave you the reputation that you ride on. Smart. Genius.
were these 2 time lapses she uploaded, which really only served to confirm she was in fact tracing AI. First, in April of 2025, she uploaded these 2 time lapses that just look like someone tracing over another layer. It's also very relevant the program she's using, Clip Studio Paint, allows people to hide layers in time lapses when exporting them. As for why this looks so
Ah.
wrong, it's mainly the way she just raw dog draws the image with no construction lines, no sketch paths, no nothing.
Yeah.
Which is not like
So she literally exposed herself. Like, I understand if you like do through editing, like, you know, you hide the sketch if that's what it can do, but at the exact same time, why would you hide that? Wouldn't it be better to see like the sketch work, the figure, and then subsequently everything else being drawn? I think that's the whole point of seeing artists draw. It's like go from the blank page to the finished work. And to hide like certain layers just to start off with line work, I mean, not bad, but at the exact same time, it's like, why? Why hide that?
impossible. There are artists who can produce great stuff just using like pens, for example.
That is true. Some like artists or stylists do, in fact, like straight up don't even do sketches. They like do it in their head and just immediately start drawing interconnected lines or connecting them to one another. It's just like practice of the hand, I guess. But again, that requires their style and everything to allow and accommodate for them to do this. And even then, they might end up having a little bit of a error or something like that. I remember like for some reason the image of like Goku Super Saiyan 4 in my mind just popping up. I remember like Tezuki Taka. No, what am I saying? That's the wrong person. That's the guy from Yu-Gi-Oh. Akira Toriyama was like, I remember him drawing a Super Saiyan 4, and it was good, but it was still like a bit shaky and wobbly because it shows he just straight up took it and drew it by hand quickly as possible off of memory, which is not a bad thing, but it shows like he didn't like sketch it up and like went for details and proportions. He just straight up did it out of memory and just with line art directly, which shows that it's shabby, but at least it's like straight up to the point line art and still manages to keep its consistency because that's the guy who's been drawing Dragon Ball. He like knows how to draw Goku, and henceforth drawing Super Saiyan 4 doesn't seem that far fetched for him to draw. It's still shaky and wobbly, but he still pulls it off with just line work. And again, that's practice of the hand and I guess the mind? Still, though.
But the way Asami does it just makes no sense at all, primarily in how she'll start and end lines in the exact spot they'll end up in the final image, like ending this character's jaw or this one's arm before putting in the leg and boobas that'll cover them respectively. And she also does not press Ctrl C or have to adjust a single line once in either of them.
Okay,
And
now
of
that's
course,
straight
it is
up crazy.
Very ironic how these both have watermarks too. Please not repost or use them in AI generation.
They unironically placed that there, knowing full well what they're doing. The irony is just like chef's kiss.
Since these only serve to indict her further, in October, when Asami was getting significant suspicion from the art community, she'd delete these two time lapses and create a new one, where she conveniently has a completely different drawing process all of a sudden. This time she does use construction lines, although to nitpick a bit, these also don't look right to me. Like, usually when someone's constructing the volume of a hand, for example, they'll start with a box for the palm and lines or cylinders to place the fingers.
I don't do it that often, and that's probably why I suck at drawing hands. But still, it's like everyone's got their different processes, so.
And maybe lines from the base of the wrist to where the knuckles would sit. Whereas Asami just draws this blob, then perfectly draws the hand over it on her first go.
Not even like the hand, it's like. I mean, I can kind of see it, like, it's basically just. Rewind a bit. This is supposed to be the big hand, this is supposed to be the small hand. Like, like a startup sketch.
Just draws this.
But yeah, like all of a sudden going from this to that.
The hand.
Just straight up drawing. I mean, it's still not perfect. The nails are somewhat choppy. But like weird.
Over it on her first go. The same is true for the rest of the sketch layer, in that it doesn't really coherently inform what will be drawn on top of it. And once again, she never uses the undo key and gets everything perfect the first time. This is done in such a way it would probably fool people who aren't familiar with how the process of making art generally goes, but still had not convinced most artist skeptics, primarily Teru themselves, who, still wanting to give Asami the benefit of the doubt at this point, reached out to ask her to draw with her on magma.com, a site where you can draw live through a web browser with other people. This would be a very easy way for Asami to definitively disprove the AI allegations, and would probably take her like 5 minutes. But instead, Asami would respond by saying, "I don't need to keep proving myself over and over again because of what people say about. I won't take part in the witch hunts or hate culture that start when people put themselves up."
Yes, witch hunts. Trying to understand if you're a fraud or not. Witch hunts. Yeah, sure. Yeah.
The internet is a free place.
She lost.
You're
she basically
free to
lost.
Whatever you want. If my previous time lapses didn't convince you, nothing I do now will. And honestly, I don't have to convince anyone. Throwing accusations online and demanding proof is just ridiculous. No one owes people like that any explanation. You don't have to commission me or follow me. Teru attaches this statement to these screenshots in the doc that I think is a fitting reply that outlines why Asami and the growing wave of scammers like her in the art community is such a major issue right now. You might not owe me anything, but you do owe your current clients the right to know what they are truly paying for. No one has to commission you, but the people who are commissioning you are doing it because they expect to receive an illustration that was drawn by you with your own skills, and not something you generated and traced over.
Basically getting paid for being a faker, a fraud even.
The blowback to Asami's platform was swift and severe. The tweet with the doc itself sits today at 23,000 likes and 6.5 million views. So this time Asami was seemingly quite desperate to save face, and probably more important to her, keep her cash cow of a scam going.
Yeah, pretty much.
Two tweets over the drama. First is this very cringy piece of her OC laughing with the text reading, "Ah, wonderful, a full comedy show. Oh, sorry, I forgot, you prefer the word drama." Then the next day, she'd make this tweet doing the classic move of saying Teru only exposed her for clout and shaming her art for only getting 1k likes. going on to claim she was being harassed by people using her email to sign up to a bunch of Gooner sites, which could be true, but she also could have just done that herself in an attempt to gain sympathy. Either way, what's funny here is, I'm pretty sure bro unironically AI generated her response to being called out for using AI. It
I
has
wouldn't
the,
be surprised.
It's not just X, it's Y phrase, and M dashes that ChatGPT always uses. I do remember Asami would defend this by saying that she has to translate her responses because she speaks Japanese, but that is not true. I don't see any reason to show it specifically, but people did find out who the person behind the account was, and she speaks English and is not Japanese. I do not know why so many grifters specifically pretend to be Japanese women, but anyway.
Because it's
After this
convenient.
was the final and most ridiculous happening of this whole drama, Asami's last time lapse. So first off, once again, compared to the previous time lapses, it would appear Asami's drawing method had completely changed. This time, she really did try to fool people, using actual construction lines that pretty closely resembled that of a real artist, and somehow has lost the ability to draw every line perfectly, and is now constantly undoing most of the lines. On top of that, it's a whole 7 minutes long, and instead of just a Procreate export, she's actually recording her hands and iPad as she draws. I have to admit, when seeing this for the first time, it was quite convincing, but of course it was merely another dastardly trick by Asami. A very clever trick I'd never seen or even really considered before, and that was, Asami had green screened out the image she was tracing. This tweet shows an example of how this works. Simply by making the image you were tracing green, you can then chroma key it out of the video, and sure enough, when looking back at Asami's speed paint, there's one moment where she slips up, opening the color wheel while the chroma key is still active, resulting in us getting flashed by this insane looking color wheel where the green is just completely missing.
Wow. Damn, I had no idea that is a really big brain move. Holy crap. It's a shame she fucked up, but I never would have expected you can. Wow, scammers really do be pushing the idea of how to scam people. What the hell? So that is such a ludicrous big brain move. I would never have expected someone actually green screen away while live streaming and showing your hands. I guess video recording it, because live streaming would still get you caught. But that is crazy. What the? Man, it's just every time I think sometimes people really do be sometimes really smart and then pull off some stupid shit like this. Why would you even show her? I guess it does make sense because you're coloring, but still. That is nuts. Green screening the background from your video so you can draw it. That is really smart. Scummy and smart. Can't deny she's whoever this person is, she's got her wits on standby, but smarts on the other hand, I think that's where the IQ kind of plummets.
This time-lapse has of course been deleted, but I remember the absolute absurdity of just how far Asami was going at this point to trick people instead of just learning how to draw like everyone else.
Or just straight up admitting it. You know, honestly, if she just straight up admitted it, it would have been just fine. Honestly, if she just straight up commits to... I've seen AI artists that just tell you they're AI artists, AI musicians or something like that, and they just commit to it. Which is still kind of bad, but the fact that they still, explicitly say, hey, this is artificial intelligence helped with this or subsequently created this with the help of creating or using this, they're at least straightforward, which is way better than just trying to pull the rug from people under their faces and being like, oh, I'm perfect. Why do people always do this? It's I ain't perfect, and I sure as hell don't want to hide it. Why the hell do they want to hide it? That's like, I'm honestly willing to stick with my shitty art style. At least then I'm being genuine. Like, what the I don't know.
With tons of very creative replies, including what may be the funniest quote tweet I've seen in my life. The freaking context elephant, but he's like green. So what happened to Asami after all this?
Cinema.
Well, she
That's
of
a good
course
joke.
turned off replies on all her tweets, since they were literally nothing but insults now that it was proven with absolute certainty she was tracing AI. And she has also deactivated and reactivated her account a few times, with her now using the Asami Hozuki handle in a faint attempt to escape her ruined reputation. She seems to be going for the ignore it and hope it goes away strategy, but I really can't imagine she's getting much of any commissions anymore, since anyone new who discovers her account will be suspicious that she's muted all comments, and if she makes them public again, it'll be filled with people clowning on her for using AI. And I am happy to say, her posts now rarely manage to pass the 1k likes mark, as opposed to several dozen thousand she was receiving before being exposed. Overall, the Asami art situation,
Irreparable damage. Karma, some would call
while
it.
funny at times, is also deeply concerning to me and should be to anyone else who cares about and especially those who make a living off of posting their art online. It is sad, but this is only becoming more and more of an issue as time goes on. As of
You
writing
have
this,
no
we're
idea.
1 month into 2026, and I think I've already seen like 5 separate art accounts get caught using this same tracing AI method to trick the community and scam people out of commissions. I will say, if you see an account that fits these red flags laid out in that sexy ass Google Doc, especially if they only post attractive women and put out multiple fully polished pieces practically every day, I don't think you should automatically assume they're using AI, but at the very least do your due diligence before supporting them. And do go out of your way to appreciate the real artists of the world who pour so much time and passion into their work. Because I wish it wasn't the case, but realistically, this shit is only going to get worse, at least for the foreseeable future.
It's Twitter edgelord. Antunes.
Antunes has quite a long history as an online artist, across Newgrounds, YouTube, and of course, Twitter. His career starts with a lot of surprisingly wholesome animations, many featuring his now infamous Sona, Mr. Sneaks. Early on, his work was appreciated for his very clear talent, especially when it came to 2D animation, and his submissions would often be featured on Newgrounds' front page, as well as garnering very respectable views over on YouTube. But everything preceding would pale in comparison to one video he uploaded in 2019 that would change everything, entitled Sonic's Deathbed, featuring Mario. This video is pretty strange. I mean, it's just what it looks like pretty much. Sonic dies surrounded by all his friends, and also Mario's there for some reason. I think it's intended to be a criticism of his games being so bad that he should just be put down. Even though Sonic Mania came out like 2 years before this, but whatever. Either way, with this video, Antunes had accidentally stumbled across the goldmine of YouTube Kid Slop, as the video would go on to garner an absolutely ridiculous 87 million views, with its sequel, Sonic's Funeral, having 167 million. Holy moly. So, of course, Antunes would then hard pivot into becoming essentially a content farm, pumping out countless Elsagate-esque ex-popular kids character dying in a hospital bed videos.
Damn.
I guess you can't hate on someone too hard for chasing such a fat bag, and he did occasionally upload what are clearly more so passion projects in between these. But these deathbed videos, although bringing him a lot of views, did also spawn quite a bit of criticism, and was the first thing to put him on the radar of YouTube drama channels. The primary criticisms leveled at Antunes were that the deathbed videos were a soulless content farm where he'd literally copy-paste the format every single time. Which,
I mean, you said it yourself. It's literally kids slop, did you say? Like, when you involve the word slop, it's to be expected it's going to be a copy pasta every single time.
You can see here is pretty shameless, and that he traced a majority of the characters. Antunes later defended this, saying it was to keep the characters on model, but I mean, that's what reference images are for.
Just my reasoning is Did you attempt to draw it first before
No.
tracing?
No, because it takes obviously it feels that just useless even, because in the end I want
Whoa. Useless? I mean, I get if you're trying to save time, that's fine. But useless?
to recreate the same. I want to have the exact same style which the original artist was going for. If I were to do it myself and still get the same result, then what's the point if the result would be the same?
You're taking the hard work that an artist did before you to create the drawing, sketching, lining, coloring, and shading, and essentially saying, I made this. Lastly, you are profiting from the stolen work. Views, likes, and attention, all gained because you were either not confident in your own abilities, or were too scared of failing, resulting in this theft.
Anyways, this was the only real criticism people had for him when it came to when he was making animations. The real
Really?
drama
That's the
and
only
reason he's in this
criticism?
video is the frankly insane shit that was going down over on his Twitter account.
Oh
In the
boy,
summer of
here we go.
2020, Antunes decided to begin his career as a webcomic artist. He basically took a break from his animations to become a somehow even less funny version of Stone Toss, who you might remember from the first part of this series.
Oh yeah,
And
this
the
guy with
resemblance
the
really is
trans
uncanny.
jokes
Really,
for
every
some
single
reason.
criticism I had of Stone Toss's comics could be copy-pasted to Antunes, blatantly spreading hatred towards the exact same groups under the flimsy guise of it just being a joke. As with Stone Toss, I don't think making jokes about sensitive subjects is inherently wrong and can be done tastefully, but from looking at how he chooses to go
Pokemon
about
reference is
it,
kinda
it is clearly
funny.
coming from a place of genuine malice and to generate hatred, not to make people smile and laugh, at least in my opinion. But worse to me,
Basically
and a
rage
point I do
baiting?
not hear brought up in his countless old exposed videos, is how obviously irresponsible it is to build your platform off a content form that explicitly targets children, and only children, then using that same platform to expose them to these crusty ass comics on your Twitter that's primary intention is clearly to encourage hate towards various minorities you don't like. And it was during this summer of comics, he'd cross over with another previous artist from this series, Puppy-chan. It all starts when Puppy-chan
that
posts this
chick.
comic of Tammy OC basically coming out to her granddad, and Antunes responds, "This artist is educating me while living in a fantasy world." To which Puppy-chan would surprisingly completely BTFO him with this response. Oh, come on, Mr. Stone Toss ripoff. That comic actually touched people instead of your shitty bait comics, which only rely on shock value to get a reaction out of people.
Oh
This
damn!
seemingly really got under Antunes' skin, as you'll see later,
Oh
and
damn!
things really blew up after Puppy-chan amended
For her
their
to say
tweet
that
by
against
saying,
him,
I'm
like,
on my period
holy.
now, so I'm kinda big mad, lol. To which Antunes
Big
replied
mad.
asking how he
Really?
could have a period if he was biologically male. This response in particular really catching fire and getting Antunes a lot of hate from the Puppy-chan stans and wider artist community. The crux was people saying Antunes was being a creep since he was 30 years old and Puppy-chan was 17 at the time.
Questioning the genitals of a minor. Don't ask anyone about the genitals. I didn't think I had to say that specifically.
Now, I really do not think Antunes
Did not
was
expect
trying
that
to
on
be
my
creepy
bingo
here.
card, but
I think he
here
was
we are.
genuinely just confused, since at the time Puppy-chan was going by she, her, and the comic that started all this was about a trans person coming out. However, it was still just really cringe to see Antunes getting in a Twitter spat with Puppy-chan of all people and losing. So bad, in fact, after all this, despite his edgy, free speech absolutist, Stone Toss-like persona, he'd go on to lock his account and play victim over getting mean tweets from Puppy-chan fans. And still seeding months later, he'd go on to create an animation of a mock video game where he depicts himself beating up Puppy-chan in the middle of a political riot. Yes, this guy dedicated dozens of hours of his time making this over a minor Twitter beef he started and lost. And in the animation, one of Puppy-chan's moves is him shooting out period blood as an attack. Bro, I cannot defend this one.
And he animated that. He animated that and posted that.
After this, Puppy-chan, who had long since moved on from the whole thing, despite Antunes' constant drama baiting, and the Puppy-chan army was obviously quite upset at Antunes again. And the two would end up having a long exchange over DMs, where they actually managed to reconcile their differences, with Antunes celebrating the event by posting this very funny drawing of the two shaking hands. So we're all good now? Well, no, as literally the very next day, messages from Antoon's Discord leaked, revealing he was simply waiting till PuppyChan turned 18 and would then return to harassing them. Also in these messages, it seemed clear as day that Antoon simply saw PuppyChan as a source of clout, saying, she's a valuable figure in this war with the left, with a giant following. With how ridiculous
Whenever someone just turns anything political, just get him out of here. Just get him out of here. What the hell?
all his drama had gotten by this point. For a few months, Anton became pretty much the target for the fledgling YouTube art commentary community, with an assload of videos on him coming out from people like IzzyZ's, Daft Pina, Just Stop, and Prison Mate Luke. Remember that guy? These videos
I
are
don't.
mainly going over the same
Yes, you
stuff
covered
we
him
just
somewhere
covered,
else.
and Antoons really did not take all this negative attention well. Every single time a video was made on him, whether it had thousands or
Cringe
hundreds of
alert.
thousands of views, he would complain about it on Twitter and argue with the creator.
Smear
And he would
campaign.
eventually
Yes,
take
yes.
this to his own YouTube channel, where he would make 3 separate videos on his own drama, all coming to a combined runtime of 6 goddamn hours. In rare instances, he did have genuine points, such as debunking that Daft Pina clip from earlier, but for the most part, he would just argue semantics on every little criticism he got. Like, he spends really long on the tracing stuff, and doesn't really refute any of the major criticisms.
The what
Most
stuff?
egregiously, he claims his comics aren't racist because he, quote, makes fun of everyone, which you can just look at them and tell that's not true. And he really loses me when he attempts to defend him taking down videos that were critical of him. In my opinion, false copy striking videos, just because they are mean to you, is completely indefensible and insanely hypocritical when you use the free speech excuse to justify your hateful comics. But that suddenly doesn't apply when you're the one getting what you perceive to be unwarranted hate. The only time he really had any real justification for this was IzzyZ's video, which implied he was a predator over the PuppyChan tweet. I will agree that's bad, although at the same time I will defend her since she was new to YouTube and like 17 at the time, like all the other people making videos on him, and was obviously just parroting the popular narrative on Twitter without doing proper research. But I feel like the response to that should be to ask her to edit out that section after explaining the context, not filing a copyright claim because the proper way, quote, takes too long. And even then, the one time he kinda has a leg to stand on, his own hypocrisy completely demolishes any goodwill again, since Antoons himself didn't just imply, but blatantly smeared IzzyZ over the video by calling her a map. When pressed on this, he first claimed he had inside sources, and would eventually admit he said that because... Okay, this is pretty bad actually. Antoon said she was a map because she supports the LGBT, which includes maps since according to him, 40% of pedophiles are in the LGBT. Oh my god.
What
This guy sucks.
Yeah,
Let's just move on, dude.
kind of?
By the middle of 2021, his drama pretty much died, mainly because others got bored of him and moved on to talking about more interesting people, and at some point his Twitter was deleted. I guess Antoons just returned to doing the same stuff he was before on YouTube, and that's where he remains today.
Shen comments. Bike.
This is one of the most popular artists we have or will be covering in this series. With a near 800k follower count on his Twitter and an insane 1.5 million on Webtoon, Shen Comics is a true legend of the webcomic game. With well over 1,000 strips to his name, he's been doing this for over a decade.
Oh yeah.
now. Shen has said his main inspiration for even starting to make comics is the GOAT himself, Ronnie, the creator of Womp. And you can definitely see the influence. They both follow the kind of self-insert protagonists in relatable situations, with simple but very appealing art styles, set in grounded worlds that are then both often unexpectedly warped to create a punchline. But he's obviously his own creator. For example, Womp is more absurd situational humor, whereas Shen's is often more focused on emotions.
Brain, what you got there?
Self-loathing.
Can I see it?
Got any more? Aww, I can't fit games into my schedule. Or can I?
And I'd say Shen has really established himself as one of the absolute best webcomic
The voice
known,
actor killed
as
it.
his comics are, I think, really funny, as well as leaving a significant mark on the internet with just how viral some of his work has become, with several even taking on a life of their own within meme
Sadness.
culture. But there's one particular comic of his that became perhaps a bit too popular in that way, and not exactly for good reasons. I think a lot of you know what's coming.
I
My
mean, given
bike
the
got
title,
stolen recently. I was pretty bummed about it. But I think whoever stole it was probably more happy to get it than I am sad to lose it. The total happiness in the world increased. So whatever.
In November of 2017, a whole
The PewDiePie
9 years
voiceover
ago,
of all things.
Oh my god. Shen would upload this comic to the world. It's, I guess, a retelling of how his actual bike got stolen while he was in Los Angeles.
Oh,
and
that's
his
kinda
bizarre
sad.
cope of how the thief was probably more happy to get it than he was upset to have been robbed. Now, I assume the intent of the comic was the same as a lot of his other works, being a kind of positive, uplifting message. And also probably a way for him to tackle his own feelings over the thing. But in practice, I'm sorry, but it's just really funny. Like, even though this clearly isn't intended to be comical at all, it still reads with the same comedic timing as his funniest comics somehow. The first 2 panels are perfectly normal, like, yeah, I'd be upset to have my bike stolen too. And then the third hits you with this insane justification of why, that's a good thing actually, with his big friendly smile and this insane total happiness of the world graph. Then the last panel really seals the deal with him dramatically walking off like he's so above everything. The comic is actually strikingly similar to Lost in how it's going for this deep, meaningful message, but is presented so bizarrely it ends up unintentionally hilarious. And also a lot like Lost, as soon as this was posted,
I remember that. I hope he says it, but I remember this one where they edited Duke Nukem and it was just like, what do you mean you lost the baby? Go find it.
going for this deep, meaningful message, but is presented so bizarrely it ends up unintentionally hilarious. And also a lot like Lost, as soon as this was posted, it was mocked mercilessly and spawned an absolute avalanche of equally funny edits. Most of the edits focused on applying the thought process to other situations, and of course the most memorable and impactful one of all is this one. My wife got fucked recently. I was pretty bummed about it, but I think whoever fucked her is probably more happy to get it on than I am sad to be cucked, so whatever. This edit popularizing the term bike cuck, which has stuck ever since.
Okay, I get.
So, how did Shen end up taking all this? First, I think it's worth noting the memes here were pretty exclusively making fun of his comic, not really mean-spirited insults at Shen himself.
Yeah, it's literally
And
just
I think you
using
can
it
tell
as a
they're in good
template.
fun. However, when something you make becomes as infamous as this, there is that fear that it'll become the thing you're known for forever, overshadowing everything else. Like, just because you made one kinda out-of-touch comic, from now on you'll be known as the bike cuck guy. It's something Shen himself even spoke about in an interview with Daft Pina over the whole thing.
Well, it was kind of like I kind of thought that my career, like as a comic artist, was over, and I would be just kind of like the next Tim Buckley, in the sense that I would have this comic like be the primary thing that I'm ever known for. And it was kind of like very panic-inducing, since obviously like comics is a thing that I've been working towards since 6 years already.
I do think it's a
Wow.
very reasonable fear for any creative to have in this situation, and apparently
I mean, yeah, if literally the only thing you're remembered for is not even like your own work, but just an edited work that just takes the joke. I mean, on the one hand, I'd find it hilarious, but still, if that's like the only reason for they remember me, I think the best way to describe it is just like that one vegan teacher, you know, the one. Like, if I'm remembered for just that, yeah, I'd go crazy too. When, I don't know, if I'm remembered for more than just that, it would be better.
at this same time, Shen had personal life stress he was dealing with, leading to him taking a hiatus from making comics. but not before posting this long Twitter thread on artists getting harassed for being cringe. If you've ever participated in a harassment campaign against an artist, then you are a piece of shit. Sorry, bud, them's the facts. Sorry, that's just how it is, bud. I don't make the rules. I love how people are trying to dissuade me from defending certain artists from targeted harassment. Like I give a fuck. Like there's anything you can do to me that I haven't done already. I'll defend Andrew Dobson and Tim Buckley from harassment. Oh, but will I defend right-wing anti-SJW artists from harassment? You bet your freaking ass I will.
Man's
Imagine
losing me
coming up
here.
to me at a booth and proudly admitting you participated in our artist harassment campaign. I'd call you a piece of shit and no one would spite me for it. And then you get laughed out of the room, and it would...
Like, I get it. People get harassed all the time. That's just, for some reason, a thing they always do, but it's like... Why go against them? It's just like, straight up, at the very least, if you acknowledge, like, there's no point in you harassing people, I'd be fine with that. That's a good reason, you know, like, what are you getting from this? What are you doing with this? Why are you doing this? I'm, like, understanding of that, but, like, to go out of your way to say that, it's like, what's wrong with you?
would actually rule. The bike meme is pretty funny though. Enjoy your meme. This is not sarcastic. It was the day after this thread, he'd upload a statement apologizing for coming off aggressive and playing the victim as he put it, and announced his hiatus saying, I like the bike memes. Please don't treat me with kid gloves. It's okay to meme. Memeing is not harassment. And my reaction to it is part of what made me realize I need to work on myself and my attitude. So I'm taking the hiatus to do exactly that. The response to the second statement was overwhelmingly positive, and although the anti-harassment thread I do actually agree with and don't think it was intended to be this.
Again, a bit over aggressive on his part, but he does have his point. If it was a bit more or less swearing and, you know, to the point, sure, but he kind of veered off from it.
During the timing, it really felt like he was lashing out at people for poking fun of his comic, despite the final lines. And I do think it was mature of Shen to take a step back from the whole thing, if it was getting emotionally taxing, and it's respectable he ultimately accepted the memes were, well, just that, and not take things too personally. Once returning from the hiatus, Shen would drop this gem. Net neutrality got repealed recently. I was pretty bummed about it, but I think whoever repealed it was probably more happy to see it go than I am. No, you dumb fuck. Ultimately, Shen decided to embrace the meme and joke about it himself, rather than fighting it. He used it to spread more joy in comedy, and since then, he's made several other funny comics and jokes referencing the infamy of the ill-received comic. Really, that's really traversing the whole situation, when we've seen the very same type of one bad or cringy thing you've done completely overtake others' careers. I'd say, if anything, the bike cuck drama only ended up making Shen more popular, considering how many people probably only became aware of him and then went on to love his comics through all these memes.
Honestly, I just remember his memes, if anything. I've never, like, what was it? I never even heard about the whole thing with the bike cuck. I just know from his comics and everything else, and from meme videos. I never knew about this. Still, very mature from him to handle it that way. Very nice. Thumbs up. Oh boy, here we go. This is gonna be interesting.
John Bob was, at one time, a central figure in the Twitter art community, wielding influence and connections that far outweighed even his own generous following. John Bob opened his Twitter in 2019. Before that, he mostly just posted random art to places like DeviantArt and simple animations to YouTube, garnering very little engagement. But upon moving to Twitter, he would almost instantly gain a huge following, going from 0 to 35,000 followers in just about a year's time.
Damn.
And that was thanks in large part to his John Bob Quest series. These were a series of short animations in which each one would have John Bob ask the audience to vote on how the story progressed through Twitter polls.
Ooh. That's an animation based on creators. That's on comments, actually. That's actually kind of smart.
Gee, those anglerfish are getting more and more crafty over the years. What new world has John found himself in? Vote below.
Minecraft.
One thing that's really striking about John Bob is the sheer work ethic the guy had. Being able to
Straight up
post
turned it
fully
into a
animated
cube.
frame-by-frame animations in insanely quick succession. It was clear even early on he was very dedicated to his identity as an online artist, willing to, I can only assume, dedicate the majority of his waking hours to it. The combination of putting out these high-quality animations at such a quick pace, with a widely appealing simple art style, short runtime, and audience participation made these perfect for the Twitter algorithm and launched him to art Twitter stardom near instantly.
That's
And
pretty
it was
smart,
very
actually.
interesting to see what he decided to do with that newfound influence. In October of 2019, John Bob would publish a game entitled John Bob's Halloween Bash. The game would feature a giant list of popular Twitter artists as playable characters, a few of which were already his moots, and others were just added without him asking. This brings us to what really made John so influential and popular. He essentially single-handedly created a Twitter artist community, bringing together every popular Twitter artist he liked to collaborate and hang out with each other in a mutually beneficial friend group, with John himself at the center. From this point on, all his work would revolve around this Twitter friend group he had created, and although this is speculative, with how he clearly dedicated all his free time to the platform and seemed to be very attached to some of these artists, as we'll get into more later, I imagine he
Whoopee
used this
cushion.
as a replacement for actual IRL relationships. To put into perspective how far his influence reached, part of this group were these artists you probably recognize. He drew Salty DK Dan's old profile picture, and even worked with... Oh my god, Shen, no, get away from him. Merely being a part of his clique would propel smaller artists into the 5-figure following count. Because of that, it was almost like John had some kind of strange power dynamic over up-and-coming artists he would bring into his friend group, and he certainly wasn't above using that power to pick and choose the kind of people he wanted to be close to.
The
by which
meme
I
of all
mean
things.
that the guy made himself a Twitter artist harem. When it came to the artists he wanted to be especially close with, it was clear he prioritized female artists with interesting looking OCs. On top of that, he had a podcast where he interviewed his Twitter friends, and almost every episode was with one of these kind of girls
Witcast.
who he'd also occasionally have very sus public interactions with. Not helping
What?
the Coon Bob
Ugh,
allegations
ugh.
were his two private
What
Twitter
the hell was
accounts.
that text? Why
First
did I
was
read it?
John Boob, where he'd be very unfiltered compared to the family-friendly cutesy character he portrayed on his public-facing accounts. Oh shit, oh fuck. I hope I don't get embarrassed for being too horny on my main Twitter. Sometimes I wonder if I have any fans that want to fuck me. I feel shitty for even trying to gain sympathy. And more disturbingly was his secret account, John Booby, where he straight up posted
John-
art of him sleeping
John
with
Boob
girls
and John
from his
Booby.
creepy Twitter harem. The fact he emphasizes in this account's bio to not share the art anywhere makes it seem like he was doing these without the consent or awareness of the people he was depicting.
Most
Which
definitely.
really makes the whole community figurehead bringing people together thing feel a lot more insidious in nature.
Yeah, that's
Despite
true.
all this
Ugh.
questionable stuff behind closed doors, in public John was continuing to find greater and greater success with his collaborative animations. It seemed he was destined to become one of the absolute biggest accounts in the space. That was until
So what
August of
happened?
that year, when everything he had built was burned down in an instant, seemingly by his own hands. I'm going to out myself for things I've done in the past that I'm not proud of. Someone I was friends with a couple of years ago shared some DMs between us, stuff I'd long since forgotten. These were DMs of a sexual nature between me and her. She was 15 and I was 18.
Of
Then
course.
we get to see some of the messages they exchanged, with John learning of her age and proceeding to coerce her into drawing NSFW art for him. To which he then informed her of how much he enjoyed using them. I'm not going to read all the messages throughout this section. There's a lot and they are genuinely pretty disturbing. But you can pause and read them if you want.
I
In
don't
his
want
tweets,
to.
John
Thank you.
claims to be coming out with these messages of his own volition, to repent, I guess. But in reality, it was a blatant effort to get out ahead of the narrative and shape perception. John claimed she had initiated the sexual nature of their conversations and he, quote, wasn't picking her out to prey upon, which all turned out to be complete lies, as the real reason he admitted to everything was that the victim themselves was planning to come out with their story, which they would that very same day, on an account simply titled, John Bob is a Pedo. There's more screenshots.
Straightforward to the point.
I don't know if anyone will see this, but I want to get my story out there before you forgive and forget. At first, I legitimately thought he was joking when he mentioned touching himself to explicit art of my character. It was supposed to be me, by the way. The question very much put me off because I wasn't sure if he was serious or not. Immediately after I realized how serious he was and started to back myself away from the conversation. But he was still my friend, and I felt like if I spoke up, I would ruin our relationship. He claims that he didn't know it was wrong, yet in the same screenshot, he asks for my age and acknowledges that I'm a minor. I know I'm not the only one. I've talked to a couple of others that have had similar experiences, and there's probably more that I don't know about. After all the details were revealed, and even more people spoke out about their experiences with John, his career was obviously over. With every single artist from the clique he had dedicated so much to building and latched onto so tightly.
Why is it always they go that route of all things? The underage people. Why is it always that route of any at all? It's like, it's so bewildering how often it happens. It's not even like, what was it? Like at this point, it's not even like to make a joke out of it. It's just straight up facts at this point. Like, what is happening?
Making statements and definitively cutting ties with him. Without John at the center, the facade of community he had built completely fell apart, with everyone from his clique returning to their own corners of the site, with him himself quickly fading into complete irrelevancy. Nowadays, you pretty much never hear of John Bob. The only time his work or name is mentioned is to either poke fun or condemn him for what he did. He did make some attempts to apologize and return to the platform over the next few months, but was quickly chased back into deactivating after being universally rejected. And we have messages of him trying to reach out to his old associates, only to get the same results. It's almost sad to see so much talent and drive given to someone who would use it for evil, ultimately rendering it all a complete waste. One thing that struck me working on this part is just how hard it was to find any concrete information on this story and archives of John's work or the long deleted threads where all this stuff went down.
Really?
I had to use this video by Bernie Fids as my main reference, and is also where like half the screenshots came from, which is why some of them look so weird. That is a phenomenal video, by the way. You should definitely check it out if you want a deeper look at the situation from someone who was actually there when it
not
all
even
happened.
properly archived.
But it does raise concerns over how, despite the saying of once you put something on the internet, it's there forever, these stories do eventually start to become lost to time. Which I do think is somewhat of a shame, since having the full context behind these events and the people behind them is important when it comes to preventing similar situations from happening in the future. And that's the video. Thank you all so much for watching and for all the kind comments on the last part, especially about the speed drawings I used as background footage. I was pretty shy to show those, so that means a lot. I've been having a lot of fun with this series, and I already have a basic outline for what'll probably be the final part 3 to this series. So let's set a goal for 10,000 likes, and I'll move it to the top of my production line.
Oh boy, I'm gonna watch that in the future, but given the fact that I unfortunately recognize a certain skeleton man there, I'm not looking forward to it.